Good morning everybody, welcome back to the channel. I am AmalgamAsh. Back in May, I showed a short video in which a small blue character walked around a 3D forest. Today I am very pleased to tease some of the actual editor and runtime features of the engine in which that scene was built. This is RPG Architect, a software currently in development by Monster and Robot. This is RPG Architect, a software currently in development by Monster and Robot. Don't go looking for it on Google though, you won't find anything on it, at least not yet. RPG Architect is an engine that will allow some users to create their own RPGs on a wide variety of platforms. While the editor shows a top-down classic tile-based view of the map I have thrown together here, the user will be given the option to display the map in 2D or in full 3D, and there is more here than meets the eye. Now before I continue, I want a disclaimer that everything you see here, from the UI to any features, explicit or implied, are completely subject to change, and that this should be considered a preview of what is still in early access. I also cannot share information about when a public release will be available, but rest assured I will share all details as I become privileged to do so. And I do plan on sharing better creations to fully demonstrate the power of this engine. For today, I have created a small map and would like to show you what kinds of tiles the engine will support, as well as show some of its layering features and map scene design options. You are looking at a map that I very quickly threw together in this top-down editor. We have access to a variety of different tiles. We are currently in the flat tiles. We can have more than one tile set, but I have made just one tile set for the flat tile category, and we can also hide that. We have access to structured tiles, which I'll go more into depth on what those are at a later time, as well as the terraforming tiles, although if you are somewhat of an RPG making enthusiast or an expert, you probably have a great idea of what these do already. We have an animated category of tiles, terraforming as well as flat, and we have tile modifiers. We have region and height as well as shape. I'm just going to jump into the title screen under the system configuration in the database and give my game a different title here. We're going to call it the Ego. The previous video was called the id, I think. We'll throw the horizontal anchor into the middle, the vertical anchor will be in the middle, and I won't change the positions right now, nor will I add any images or anything. We'll also change the color of the text and make it black on our menu items, and then we will save the project and test play. Here we are, my menu items at the bottom. Let's go ahead and go into a new game, and voila! Now, this is a character that I created using a different character creator, one that is available on itch.io. It is called CPAC if you are wondering. Now, this is an 8-directional character and it has 9 frames of movement. I have got a 3D map just thrown together with tiles that I made in a paint program. So everything was done graphically outside of RPG Architect, but you're seeing the assembled product here. They were all painted onto the map canvas the same way that you would design a map in many different other RPG making softwares, and I have full camera control. My character is actually a few pixels off of the ground, it looks like. This is something that I can definitely change. These tiles are arranged in a sort of stair-step pattern, and I'll kind of go over how I did that in the editor itself. Now, one thing I want to show you is that your sprite is not exactly billboard, it is more Paper Mario style. You actually have a flat 2D appearance, but I was able to specify the number of frames and the number of directions that my sprite had, so there will be no need to use external plugins for this. The capabilities of the engine definitely include being able to support sprites with different directions and different frames of animation. One thing I want to show you is that the tiles I've laid down here actually have collision by default. I didn't have to specify that there be collision on these particular flat tiles. We also have some tiles that are floating above ground that have a transparency to them. I had to map the keys manually to the keyboard, but this was done in a matter of seconds. I literally had no instruction, and it took me just under a minute to get all of these directions mapped using the editor. So I mapped directions for my sprite to walk as well as camera controls, and I didn't have any difficulty in doing so. Now these black structure boxes. These would be structure tiles, but I was using tiles that I actually don't have the privilege to show off right now, so I took them out of my map before broadcasting, and I found it very, very convenient that the engine didn't break and that my project was still able to load. I just have these black boxes because I didn't actually delete the tiles off of my map. I just deleted the tiles from the tile sets, so they're still here, and that's useful to me because I can see what I'm missing. Now, there are a lot of features that I'm not going to show today in the engine. I'm excited to show them at a later time, but for now, this is what my very simple, dumb map is looking like, and I could just as easily have made a bunch of trees and a forest around myself, but I was in a rush to get this map done, as my time is always very limited. So let's go back to the editor, and I would like to direct your attention to the bottom right-hand side of the screen, so I'll zoom into this for you. I created many layers for my map. By default, we had one upper layer, one base, and one lower, and creating a new layer was as easy as hitting the plus sign. Once you've done that, you can actually name your layers. I just left all mine at default, but you can give every single layer a name. You can give every layer an opacity, which operates independent of the opacity of the ping graphic tiles that you use to build each layer. Whether or not the layer is visible, this is very useful for putting things that will float in midair, and whether or not it parallaxes, and you can change the base height of that layer, which I did. The base height of each one of these strips of tile is actually 0.2 different from one another. I'm going to turn on the layer assist mode, which will show you what I mean by that. Now, with layer assist mode on, the map layer that you're working on is the one that is nice and bright, and your adjacent layers have a different level of opacity to indicate which layer you're currently working in. So you can see each of my strips of tile that I put on, different opacities. This pink strip is on this third from the bottom layer here. The fourth from bottom has this green, and there's a little bit of grass coming up, probably on this fifth layer, isn't it? Yep. And it's different ramps that were kind of suspended in midair, which I'm sure you saw. And then we just keep going up. My structure tiles that were blacked out are up here somewhere on one of these upper layers. It's just a matter of me clicking the right one and clearing them out. Back to the base layer, and I'm going to turn off layer assist mode so we see everything all at once. This is a very, very handy feature. We have our standard paintbrush, paint bucket, rectangle, ellipsis, and eraser tools. And of course we can create maps much, much bigger than this, and we can loop them. I'm just going to zoom out really far to give you a sense of how big some of these maps can be, and I want to impress upon you that this engine is small and fast. There is not a ton of overhead here. While that is subject to change, it's being developed with this 3D aspect in mind, so it isn't likely that it's going to be bogged down with so much of the overhead that many other RPG middlewares are. So I'm looking forward very much to using this and to showing it off more, and I'm just going to leave it at that for now. Just a nice teaser. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, bye-bye.